I am your host, Hal the Slab Guy. As always, with me are my usual partners in crime, but this one usually switches out with another guy, but we'll get to him last. Down below me is Dan the Man Kelly, the guy that owns Instagram. The man is Instagram. The man is all about gramming. Dan, why don't you guys a little info on where you can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. I post there a few times a week. Right now, Todd McFarlane is running that Spawnuary cover contest. So I'm going to be posting a lot of Spawn pictures in the next few weeks. I posted my first entry today. Actually, I'll show you guys. This is the one I'm working on now.
Oh, can't see it. Can't see it. Too much glare.
Too much glare.
Let me try that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, nice. Better. Oh, that's good.
That's kind of what I'm working on now, but I'm undecided on it because I'm digging the concept that I had for it, but it's not turning out the way I want, so we'll see. But anyways, yeah, so check me out on there and give me some likes, give me some follows. I'm at 815 now, so.
What are we doing, Gary?
We're doing 1K for DK. And let me tell you something, folks. You better jump on that bandwagon right now, because when he wins that Spawn contest, you're going to be begging to join that site, and it's going to be bursting at the seams. So you get on that right now. Get on that Dan Kelly train right now while you still can. Because if you wait, that train's going to be way down the tracks, bursting at the seams, and ain't going to be no more damn room for you. So ride the DK train right now.
There's no points for second place, ladies and gentlemen.
No, there isn't.
Dan the Man, why don't you give our next guest his introduction?
Well, this is a man that needs no introduction.
Oh.
Rick is, we always call him the Ric Flair of comics. Women love him. Men want to be him. He is the owner of the Library of Comics. That's Mr. Gary, Mr. Uncle Gary.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. You're the best road manager I've ever had. And let me tell you something. All that he said is true and is my cross to bear. Sometimes it's a burden, but you know what? That's why I got big shoulders, because I can carry that load, man. And you know why I can carry that load? Because I read comic books. And comic books make you strong. That's right. That's right. You can catch me at Comic Logic. Look at all the muscles that we've got on this panel. You can catch me at Comic Logic, Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. I'm a proud co-owner. You can see me every single Wednesday. Look at these guys. They know the drill. They get that 4-color ink, and we pump it in there, and then it builds arms, it builds muscles. And when you turn those pages of the comics, you're using muscles. When you get a stack of comics and you're moving them, it uses muscles. When you get so many comics, they got to go in a short box, you're using muscles. And then you get so many more comics, you're lifting long boxes. You lift them over your head. You're lifting them on this stack. You're doing here. You're going there. Builds muscles, baby. That's right. Comic books make you strong. Do a few push-ups, too. All right, so there we go. Also at Comic Logic, the first 3 Thursdays every month, you can see me and my compatriots doing a Facebook Live show. Tonight was our preview show. The next 2 nights, you grumpy old nerds. My best friend Mike Harbor will be back from Alaska, and he'll be on the panel with myself and Rob Kalin, our principal owner. And we'll talk sports, we'll talk nonsense, we'll talk comics, pop culture. At the end of the show, we'll tell you to get off our lawn. So come see ye grumpy old nerds. And then we also want to give some love to Archduke Kevy, who started Comic Character of the Day, a site that we are all intimately familiar with because we all interact with that site. I post a cover of the day under the name Oka Taylor. Sal is a frequent collaborator, and Dan posts a random panel of the day and the question of the day. And J-Dub is always watching, making sure that we are doing the due diligence to make it the best page possible for Archduke Kevy, who we love for bringing us together. So that brings us to the last person on our panel. The last person on our panel is the first person, because he is the architect. He is the one that had a dream, had a vision, and he built this channel brick by brick by brick. He put us in the ground. He's the one that started what you have here. If you like what you have here, then you have to be thankful, because that man had a vision. He had a vision of what was in here to put it out there so all of you can see and experience this goodness. You can soak it in, you can take it in, but you couldn't do it if it wasn't for the one, the only J-Dub.
J-Dub. How you doing, buddy?
You like me. You really like me.
Why don't you
No,
tell us about the Kodak Station there, buddy?
Yeah, guys, you can find us on all the socials over at the Kodak Station. And don't forget to check out our fantastic new website, thekodakstation.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything.
That guy.
Get some merch, meet the team, let us know what you like, don't like, and find all of our socials so you don't miss any of the content that we are putting out for you. And Sal, you forgot about yourself, bro.
Oh, that's right, dude. Well, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner and Instagram as the Slab Guy 77.
Awesome.
And I got a new mail call coming out tomorrow night. I think it's set for 8:30 Eastern time. So check that out.
And
You got 90 different variant covers of Venom. It's crazy.
Only a couple variants this
He
week.
wore that hoodie so
Copies
much
of
that
each
he's
one.
bought it that it's wearing out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you first got it, and now it's Venom, not Venom.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
What
I don't know
happened,
what
to
you're
your,
talking about.
what happened to your thing where you were going to buy a T-shirt for each week for whatever character we were doing? What did that last?
So here's the deal with that.
It
I was
lasted
trying
4
to do that, but
episodes.
It lasted
was either-
one week before we did Wonder Man.
it was either spend that money on comics or buy a T-shirt.
You got priorities.
Yeah,
Gotta have priorities.
Dan, gotta have priorities.
Listen,
Spend the
he
money
could have
on-
bought either another copy of the Venom book he had or a T-shirt. He's got to go with that Venom book. That's right.
Come on.
Well, when I say 90 copies of Venom, it's really not 90 different covers. It's like, it's like 5 covers, but it's 20 copies of each one. It's like 15, 20 copies of each.
I don't know. Dan is fibbing on here on Kodak Station tonight.
Dan's had one too many. We're gonna kick him off right now.
Oh,
Thank you.
man. Don't kick him off because we need Dan for the intro. And who are we covering tonight, Dan?
Straight from MASH.
You can say his name.
Hawkeye.
There we go. All right, give us the information on Hawkeye.
Are we starting the show?
We're still in the pre-show.
Oh, we're still in the pre-show. I'm sorry. We're still in the pre-show.
No, give us the info.
In charge,
Hey,
Johnny.
No.
Hey, that was
No.
a premature. That was a premature instructions. That's
Let,
right.
let me help you out here real fast. Let me put the ticker up so you can read the bottom.
Okay, hold on.
There we go. There we go.
I love how you
Premature
went through
introduction.
everything and said we were in the pre-show, and then he goes, "Why don't you just give us the info?"
Let's give us the info. Hold on.
I was telling someone at work today, I had 2 different people give me bottles of whiskey for Christmas. I'm like, what are you all trying to tell me?
You have a
Yeah.
problem.
You trying to tell me I drink too much or that I
Yeah.
don't drink enough?
Yeah. Dan's not giving you the info until you do a little foreplay, buddy. Yeah. That's
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm jumping the gun there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just so excited to get into the show.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the show, we had some fun stuff happen this week. You guys went over the CGC scandal. Sales clear. None of his books were affected, which is great. We're going to be having 9.9 Newsstand come on for a follow-up update on everything that's going on. So, guys, keep an eye out for that. I believe you guys are doing it at the 8th. So the video will be
We
up
are.
there.
We are.
Either
We'll do it on the
following
8th,
day
so it'll be up.
or the
Yep.
next. Also, we got a lot of sponsors to talk about because, we're kind of a big deal now. But yeah, it's going to be a good show. A lot of changes, a lot of things going into the new year. You know us. New year, same old nerds.
We're talking comics, baby. We're talking comics. I picked up some older issues.
This month too.
Oh, yeah. He's channeling his inner Uncle Gary. You know what you've
Who?
done to
Yeah.
Sal?
I am.
Well,
And I've got
yes.
I think I've got
love it.
6 copies. I got 6 copies of not 6 copies, 6 issues of Weird Mystery Tales coming to me next week.
Can't wait to see it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I told you it's only 24 issues, so it's not a hard one to complete.
No,
And
it's
you've
not.
already got what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, I had 4, and now with these other 6 issues, I should have 10.
One of the things I'll show on comics, the After Dark Comics Unleashed, is
Yeah.
I'll show according to Damien, the hardest DC giant to find that I just
Ooh.
bought. Yeah.
Nice. I can't wait to see that.
Mm-hmm. So look forward to seeing that. Not one you would guess either. So how about that?
Ooh. Very good. Very
Is
good.
this going to be the one that you said was inspired by Sal?
No, that'll be the showcase. So the showcase this week is inspired by Sal. Sal's inspired me.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. I'm
you
scared
might be
now.
throwing that off as part of the showcase.
It's all Italian on the cover, just going like this.
It's all what on the cover? Oh, yeah.
It's all Italian people on the cover just shaking their fist at the world.
Yeah. It's all mobsters. It's all gangsters. No, it was from when I was at the hospital, when I rewatched that show, there was a comment he made. It was a flippant comment. And I'm like, oh, it's on there. So
what did I say?
know what it is.
What did I say? I don't even remember what I said.
What did I say?
What happens when you drink? You don't remember.
It's nothing bad, but it's nothing bad, but it was a dig. It was a dig. He took a shot. So,
well, you know what? Now, everybody, you have to go back and rewatch that episode so that you can figure out what it is that Uncle Gary's going to be doing for a show.
Hey, just like
what
Spider-Man, what did Peter do? What did Sal do?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What
According
did
to
Sal
Tim.
do?
Well, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that show now because I forgot what I said.
He's going to be like, I watched it 7 times. I don't know.
I will tell you this. That show and this past show where I blinked out, like when the Collector snatched all the Avengers. Sal, excellent review of all the stupid stuff that I say.
My God.
When I introduce myself. Thank you.
I died laughing the entire time.
Oh, he
because
did
I
a
was
great
saying
job.
it in my head, but Sal was saying it in real life, and I was like,
yeah, the last one where you blanked out too, I was like, oh, I gave him a good intro on that too, and then he just blanked out.
I know, and then y'all said that the internet, it just wasn't enough to hold all this. You know, I know.
Awesomeness, yeah.
All this awesomeness, but hey, it was love. I feel the love. You know that y'all are, repeating this dumb stuff that just shoots out of my mouth. So I appreciate it, man.
It's the thing of greatness.
We've got all the socials. We want to give them to you,
and we want to give them to you. That's right. So I love this stuff. I love it. So thank you all. It was very much an honor.
Much love. Much love.
I got a lot of love to give.
You guys about ready to jump into today's episode, though?
What? You mean we could start the show?
I mean, unless you want to just do it in the pre-show and just say it all.
It's the show. It's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Go. Start the show. Give us the groovy bass tones.
I don't want to.
Give us the groovy bass tones.
I'm going to do what I do, okay? Stop yelling at me.
I'm going to do what I want.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Codex Station's Comic Character of the Week, where we take a deep dive into one character and give you all the information that you need to know about this character. As always, I am joined with my usual crowd of suspects here. Down below me is Dan the Man Kelly. Just to his right is the Ric Flair of comics, Uncle Gary. And over to my right is the one, the only J-Dub. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Are you guys ready to jump into this character now and give us all the information?
I'm ready to shoot straight and narrow. Let's do this.
Ooh, wow.
Hit the target.
That's a
bullseye.
Hit the target. Well, Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us the honor of all the information we need to know?
Well, tonight's character of the week is Trapper John. No.
MD.
Wait. What?
Hawkeye.
Pistachio nuts. What?
If you get that reference, you're old.
Yep, I did. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Hawkeye made his first appearance in Marvel Comics all the way back in Tales of Suspense. What issue, Uncle Gary? I know that you know.
You mean the book that I have over there? It would be Tales of Suspense 57.
There you go. From September
it's right over there, folks.
Own it. It's right over there.
from September 1964, created by Stan Lee and Don Heck. So Hawkeye is the superhero identity of Clint Barton, who was orphaned at a young age when his parents died in a car accident. Him and his brother Barney spent several years in an orphanage until they ran away and joined the circus. And Hawkeye was noticed by the swordsman, who took him under his wing as his assistant apprentice, and with him and the help of Trickshot, another supervillain, trained him how to be a master archer. And then one day Hawkeye discovered that swordsman was robbing the carnival, or robbing the circus. Swordsman beats him, leaves him for dead, and he decides Clint decides to create the persona of Hawkeye to have his own circus act. And when he is performing in a circus and he sees Iron Man, he is moved by Iron Man's heroics and decides that he wants to become a hero too. But his first time out, there's a misunderstanding where they think he's a thief, and he has to go on the run. While he's on the run, he hooks up with Black Widow, and he kind of follows her. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? This is before she became a hero. He follows her lead. She's trying to rob Tony Stark, so he's helping her with that. She gets gravely injured. He goes to try and rescue her, but before he can get her to a hospital, she disappears. He decides that he's going to change his ways. He's going to become a hero, and he ends up rescuing Edwin Jarvis, the Avengers butler, from mugging. And Jarvis says he's going to help him, stage this thing where he can prove himself to the Avengers. So he joins them, and the rest is history. As far as superpowers, he doesn't have any, but he's an expert marksman. He is peak human physical conditioning. He's an exceptional fencer from being taught by the swordsman. He's a great acrobat. He's good at tactics. He's good at martial arts, hand-to-hand combat. He's all taught by Captain America. He does have not superhuman strength, but peak physical strength. There was a moment in his first solo series where someone at the company he's working for tries to pull back the bowstring on his bow, and he has it so tight that they can't, which shows his level of strength at being able to constantly do that. He's also been shown kind of like Bullseye in the comics that he can kind of turn anything into a weapon. At one point, he did have the alter ego of Goliath, where he used the pin particles, and when he had that, he was able to grow giant and have super strength and invulnerability, but that was only a short period of his history.
Okay. All right. Very good. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Now, before we jump into all the good details, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor, which is W Energy. If you want to throw up the little ticker for us there, Jamie, go over to WGG and check out the energy drink they have there. It's a good, clean energy drink. There's no sugar crash. There's no bad aftertaste. It is a good, clean energy drink. And if you use the word code X at checkout, you can save 10% on that order. So head over to WGG and check them out. All right. So first up is scenarios that work best for this character. What do we like him doing, or how he is portrayed, and how what do we like him best in? So Uncle Gary, why don't you kick us off with that?
I like Hawkeye best when he is in a team setting, and when he is a part of the team or the team leader. When he first came to the Avengers in Avengers number 16, at that point, the Avengers it was only Cap, and then Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and so they were dubbed Cap's Kooky Quartet. So they were all, the other three were people that the public thought were criminals. Yeah. So he had to reform people in their minds, and that he was a good guy, and he also had a big chip on his shoulder, and he gave Cap a lot of crap for being Methuselah, being an old man, and this and that. But ultimately, there's a respect level. So I enjoy Barton when he's part of a team book, and when he's the hard, when he's the smart ass in the group, busting people's chops. And later on, I really enjoyed him evolving into a team leader. He led the West Coast Avengers,
Yep.
and he also led the Thunderbolts for a while.
Yep.
So I think the evolution of the character as a vital cog, but a squeaky wheel in a team, to a fellow who has taken on the mantle of leadership in a team. So I love him as a vital member of a team, if not the leader, then a vital cog and a vital piece of what makes the team effective.
Cool. Awesome stuff. Jamie, how about you?
I do agree with Uncle Gary. In a team setting, he's great, but he's better to me as a leader, especially if you look at something like the Thunderbolts, where he just rejuvenated that team. He made them worth a while rather than just be a bunch of villains coming back trying to, be quote unquote heroes or save anybody. He made them a legible team. Same thing when with the series Occupy Avengers, he took a team of non-superpowered heroes and brought them all together and made them something better than what they were before. His leadership is, to me, on par with those like a Captain America or an Iron Man in the sense of his strategic abilities just moving forward. Like he just is that he's the person that actually holds that whole crew together.
Awesome. Dan, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I agree with Gary. What he said. Like, I like it when he's being cocky, when he's kind of being a smart ass. And I do like him. I do like his solo stuff too. He's had a few solo series that have been really good. But I do like him generally more on a team, something like the West Coast Avengers, or like Jamie said, the Thunderbolts. But I also like him not just being a team leader, but kind of being a mentor. Like in the Matt Fraction series, where he's like a mentor to Kate Bishop, and even in a sense when he was with the Thunderbolts, that he's kind of a not so much of a mentor to them, but a little bit where he's showing them like they're villains that are trying to reform. And, they're all kind of questioning, is this worth it? Will I be able to do this? And he's like, look, I did it. Like, I did it. I became a well-respected Avenger. You can too, and I'm going to help you do it. So it's, I like how he does that, where it's not just, oh, I'm going to lead the team, but taking that extra step too. And I like how when he is, out there fighting, especially with the Avengers, and he realizes, what he's surrounded by is like, I'm surrounded by super soldiers and gods and superpowered people. And, and he said it before, he's like, I'm just out here with this archaic weapon, I'm just shooting sticks off of a string. But, he has, he's earned his place there. I think in the second Avengers movie, Age of Ultron, Jeremy Renner said it great when, he's having that little moment with Scarlet Witch. And
he's like, I've got no powers. I have a bow, and we're fighting robots.
And the city is flying.
She's like, because she's one of the most powerful Avengers, and she's like, I can't do this. And he's like, none of this makes sense. He's like, I'm like James. He's like, I'm on a flying. He was like, we're on a flying island, and we're fighting robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. I'm gonna go. But I'm going to go back out there and do this because that's my job. Like he realizes that, he shouldn't be doing what he's doing, but that's what he has to do. So, I like that even when he knows the odds are against him, that he's still going to go out and do it because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
What about you, Sal?
Okay, well, I'm going to echo a lot of these comments that you guys have already made. I like it when he's being a leader, but it's got to be a small team. I don't think he could do a large team. He probably could, but anything larger than what the Thunderbolts were, I think he would get lost in, trying to be the leader of that team. Because I don't know. I don't see it, but it could eventually go that way. I like the reforming bad guys shtick, where he's like, yeah, you were bad, but you could turn, you could turn good. You could always change your ways. You could do this. You could earn the respect of like Captain America, or something like that. And he did that with the Thunderbolts too. So I do like that. And you know what I especially love? I love the trick arrows. I really do. You know, there's always an arrow. He kind of reminds me of Green Arrow from the DC universe because he's also a smart ass there too. You know,
Mhm.
he's always back talking or, you know, throwing shade when, you know, shade needs to be thrown. So it's kind of like they're, you know, almost the same, but not really. But you can get my picture with that. So I do like those. And I do like, you know, him leading a smaller team because I do think he has excellent leadership skills. And he could definitely go into battle like what Dan was talking, like from the movie. That is it personified right there. You know, I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. You know, so that's what I like best about him.
And I love that line he has in the beginning of the movie too, when he gets hurt, and they're like, "Oh, Barton, you're on the, you know, this could be it for you." He's like, "No, I'm going to live forever." Like,
Forever. I'm going to be made of plastic.
yeah.
I'm going to be made of plastic.
Well,
yep.
And don't forget when he was leading the Great Lakes Avengers.
Yeah. Well, in the movie where he grabbed the Infinity Gauntlet, you know, he was the first one to get a hold of it.
Yeah, he grabbed that
And then
and just like running through the battlefield.
He got it out of the sub basement where he was being pursued, and without him, you know, the course of the, you know, the narrative doesn't go as well. So, he's very important.
Yeah.
None of this makes sense, but I'm going to go out there and do it because it's my job. You know.
And he's an aspirational figure,
right?
You know, that's what the other Thunderbolts could look up to him to do, and just, you know, the leadership he got from, you know, and then when somebody gives him a hard time, he knows that he was a jackass to Cap,
right?
And he understands that, he takes that, and I agree with you, Sal. There's a more tight knit team, 5-6 person team. I think he's better suited for, and he's, you know, he's got a hand in. You know, every aspect of leadership on that team better than a whole big giant, you know, unit of a team.
Yeah, I don't see him leading some type of epic event, but I can see it in a tightly knit team, especially if they lead him as a like leadership figure. I don't want to say father figure, but I want to say leadership figure. Like, oh, he's doing this and he's got no powers and, you know, just a string and a stick. I mean, you know, then I could do this too. That type of thing. You know?
Yeah, it'd be good. Like, you know, you wouldn't have him in one of the big epic crossovers. Like, all right, he's the one that's going to lead, you know, all the assembled heroes. It's going to be like, all right, Cap's going to lead all the assembled heroes. And when he breaks it off into like this 5-man team, that 5-man team, like he'll be in charge of one of the teams. That goes on.
I see that for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into our next segment then, and this is Badass Moments. This is badass moments from any of the versions of comics that we got going on. And Jamie, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your badass moments?
Okay, so just to tell you guys, there is one moment I have, and I'm gonna save it for last, but it has to do with Hawkeye, but doesn't at the same time, and you understand why. So I wanted to preface that.
Has to do with Lucky the dog, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
So for my first one, I have him and his transition into the Ronin, which turned him into probably the most unique badass you could ever think of. You got that short, sweet little bit in Avengers Endgame of him that does not do justice on what he was doing and what he turned into, because every moment of him being that was just pure badasses. My second was from Civil War #3, and that's him killing Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
And I'll get
Bruce asked him to.
Yes, but I'll get into more than that later.
Okay.
You know, more digging in. But my last one for badass moments is this. I can talk about again later too. Is it was in Deadpool versus Hawkeye, and it was the moment where they're both fighting and they stop, and Deadpool's talking with his mask on and realizes that Hawkeye can't hear him because he's partially deaf, and lifts up his mask, and they're both signing to each other. I thought that was like one of the most badass moves because no one remembers that he's partially deaf.
Yeah.
The only time they mention it, even in the show or even in the MCU, for example, is in his solo series near the end, because they show everything that they went through, like blasts and everything. Now he's got hearing aids, but he's been like that for a very long time, and nobody's mentioned that at all.
Right.
So.
All right. Very good. Uncle Gary, what are your badass moments?
I just want to parrot something that Jamie was saying there. You know, it's interesting because I really enjoyed the Old Man Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was good.
But I don't think he was blind in that, but he wasn't deaf, was he?
They didn't talk about it at all.
No, they
Yeah,
didn't.
so
They didn't.
because that would have taken another sense from him.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a different version of that character,
Right.
like the Old Man Logan was. But I thought that was interesting. But you know, but that made me think, well, yeah, that's right. They didn't use his deafness in that iteration of Hawkeye. They used him as being blind, and that was a pretty badass Hawkeye
Yes.
too. It's not one of mine. All right, so my badass moments are, I'm going to start with in Avengers 174. Hawkeye has come back to the Avengers. This is part of the whole big overlapping Korvac saga, and all of a sudden Avengers are starting to disappear. They're starting to blink out of existence. They're just vanishing, and so it ends up that only 4 Avengers are left. It's Iron Man, Thor, the Wasp, and Hawkeye, and they figure out what's happening. The Collector, who is a cosmic being, is snatching them and taking them. He's collecting them. And so they get to the Collector's ship, and the Collector takes out Iron Man, he takes out Thor, and then he takes out the Wasp, and he tells Hawkeye, you know, that he is the last of the Avengers and the least of the Avengers. And so Hawkeye takes a little bit of umbrage with that, and he tells him, he says, in power, you're right, but in skill, I'm the best. And so he takes on the Collector, and the Collector, you know, being his brash self, he screws around a little bit too much, and the Collector's almost got him, and he realizes he should have freed the other Avengers because they're all there in, like, you know, the big status tubes. I love it when they have comics, and they've done this in Justice League quite a bit, where they're in like containment tubes, and you see their bodies and all that. So he doesn't free them, and because he's going to be cocky and take on the Collector himself. But then he, you know, right before it all, he has to make the Collector use the power cosmic that he has within him that he hasn't used in a while because of his age, and he's pissed off at Hawkeye for making him at his advanced age go to use this. And Hawkeye realizes it's through a medallion on his cape, and he shoots it off of the Collector's body and short circuits everything and saves the day with a well-timed arrow as he's being crushed by the areas he's in. It's a ramp, and the Collector's crushing it around him, and he gets off one shot and short circuits the Collector's cosmic power upgrade that he's having, and he saves the day. So that's pretty badass that he's the last and the least, but when it comes to skill, he's the best.
Yeah.
So I love that. Avengers 189. He is part of the massive cut down on the team where they had like 20 Avengers and they got to get down to 7 because the biggest dick in comics, Peter Henry Gyrich, has demanded that the Avengers cut down. And Gyrich has a hard-on for Clint because Clint came back to the mansion when everybody was, you know, disappearing, and he sees Gyrich, and he ties him, he captures him and leaves him tied up in a conference room while he goes and makes a meal for himself. and the Avengers, and then he tells the Avengers what they did, and they're all horrified. So when the cuts come to make on the team, the government mandated team, of course, Hawkeye is left off the team. So he's got to find employment. And in Avengers 189, he's working as a one of the tech companies. He's working as a security guard for them. He's on the night shift. And Deathbird decides to raid and come in and raid the company for some of their tech. And so he is totally outclassed by her powers. You know, she's tangled with Captain Marvel. And he ends up beating her and getting her in with a steel mesh net arrow. And so she when the you know, he's talking shit to her the whole time. And so when the police come to take her away, she says, Archer, I won't forget this. He says, well, he's like, well, baby, if you want something I'll give you something not to forget. And he grabs her, dips her down, gives her a big old kiss, and says, there's something you won't forget. And then as she's protesting, he says, baby, my dance card's full. Don't worry. Don't call me. I'll call you. In the era of Me Too, this is probably a bad a bad beat, but I gotta say, I thought it was pretty badass that he gave that supervillain, gave her a big dip, gave her a big kiss, and says, "There's something you won't forget." So I love that. And on a larger scale, in Avengers 502, Avengers Disassembled, there's a Kree warship. Well, Kree warship, but there are other factors involved. Everything wasn't quite what you see, but a Kree warship was bearing down on the Avengers, and they were just getting wiped out. And his quiver had started to catch on fire, and he has a bunch of explosive arrows in it. He realizes there's not much he can do, but he can take one. He can help his team out, and he gets one of the Kree that has a jetpack, and he grabs that Kree and flies right up into the belly of the ship, and the whole ship explodes. He explodes himself, and he explodes the ship to save the day. So sacrificed himself, took out a whole frickin' spaceship, and did it. So that to me is noble sacrifice. And he, he didn't just take down one dude; he took down the whole damn ship. So
yeah, that's pretty badass. That's pretty badass.
That was pretty badass.
Actually, that was one of my I changed out. But go ahead. That's a badass.
Well, I'm glad we got it in then.
Yep, definitely. Dan, how about you? What's your badass moments?
You mentioned before that, as I say, you mentioned Deathbird. Like you should have said that for his best case scenario. Hawkeye's got a somewhat impressive body count in Marvel. He's not really. He's got Black Widow, Mockingbird. Wasn't he involved with the Wasp for a while?
Scarlet
Witch. Wasn't he involved with Moonstone when he was on the Thunderbolts?
Yes.
And I know I'm forgetting one or two, but it's like, Hawkeye is
player.
What'd you say?
Yes.
Player. He's a player.
Yeah.
He is, definitely.
So for my scenarios, the one I had was Avengers 174. Gary already covered that pretty well. The Collector takes down the entire team, thinks Hawkeye is, the least of them, and Hawkeye's the one that beats him. Mm-hmm. Also got one, Gary usually likes to have the badass moments that are like the somewhat quieter moments. So one that I liked for it was in the Hawkeye Volume 4. I think it was issue 2. If I'm not I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was issue 2, where this tracksuit mafia, the head of them owns the building that Hawkeye is living in, and he starts evicting the people that are in there because he's just triples their rent where they can't pay, and he just starts kicking them out because he wants to get everyone out so he can sell the building. So Hawkeye, who has somehow, through his Avengers money and other things, has just amassed a substantial amount of money. He just buys the building from him. He's like, here's 12. I'm giving you it was like $12 million or something for it. He's like, here you go. I'm buying it. And that's just how it's going to be. Like, just take the offer. We're not going to negotiate. This was. And the guy goes, well, I already said I was going to sell it to someone else. He goes, I don't care. You're taking it.
There you go.
Puts him in the cab and sends him on his way. So he bought the building just so that his neighbors would not be evicted from their homes. Like, it's not, it's not going out and fighting a supervillain or anything like that, but it's saving lives in a much different way, in a much smaller way, but it's still, it's still saving the day.
Still a badass.
It's badass.
Yeah.
It's a badass, small human moment. And you're right. I love those moments. That's a great choice.
And my final one I have is I'm actually kind of surprised that Uncle Gary didn't pick it, because I know his affinity for this series. It's from the JLA Avengers crossover. At the in the final issue, it looks like Flash and Hawkeye are killed by Krona, and he's fighting all of the combined might of the massive teams of the Avengers and Justice League. And right when he's essentially beaten them and he's going to win, and he's like, all right, I won. And then Flash shows up and he's like, oh, hey, did you forget about something? And Crone's like, I saw you die. He's like, oh, yeah. Thing was that, that didn't really happen. We tricked you. But guess what? I'm just a distraction. And then Hawkeye shoots an arrow with his machine, and he goes, "Oh yeah, Flash got us out of the way just in time, but I had one arrow left, but guess which one it is? A TNT arrow." And Krona goes, "No!" And Supervillain says, "No!" And then you see his machine explode, and he's defeated it, and that defeats him, and he saves the day. So Hawkeye's the one that saved the entire Marvel universe and the DC universe and the Avengers and the Justice League. He saved it all, so that it doesn't get much
one
more
arrow
than that.
One arrow.
Yeah.
One arrow, baby. One arrow.
And he was being a smart ass while he did it too.
There you go.
Of course.
That's what he does.
So what about you,
Great
Sal?
one.
What do you got for your 3?
Well, my 3 are not that impressive compared to everybody else's. They're like really impressive, but I found these to be pretty badass moments for me. Tales of Suspense number 57. He shows off his devil may care attitude and almost beats Iron Man with what?
Arrows.
A rust arrow, a rust fluid arrow. So, and I think this was back when Iron Man had the gold armor, because it was the Golden Avenger's armor, so that they're calling it.
Yeah.
So, and I just like that. That was pretty badass for me. Next one is Avengers 502. He Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. This is the one I had, the same as Uncle Gary's, where he rockets himself up into the Kree warship and detonates the warship. So I won't talk more about that because Uncle Gary probably went over that pretty well. The last one I have is actually kind of like a small moment, but it's between him and Kate, and I'm only going to give you 2 words: boomerang arrows.
Oh yeah,
boomerang arrows. And he's talking to Kate, and he's like, boomerang arrows, and she's like, why would you want an arrow back after you shoot it? He's like, respect the gear, you'll need it. And of course it turns out he does need it, because it hits a guy that's pointing the gun at him right back in the back of the neck.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, he tells her to shoot it, then she's like, okay, I get it. That one, I think it was a couple issues later too, that in that series it was really good when she's driving the car and they're being chased, and he's like, hand me this arrow, and she's was making fun of him for his trick arrows, and then and then he was using them all to save the day, and she's getting on him because he doesn't have any of them labeled.
Right. Right.
Back, I know I'm jumping companies, but there was a trick arrow thing back in the Grant Morrison run of Justice League, and I think it was the 9th or 10th issue. Yes. They had the Key was the villain, and Connor Hawke was there taking the mantle of the Green Arrow in this league, and he didn't have any of his arrows left, so he went into the trophy room and he got some of Ollie's old arrows, and one of them is the boxing glove arrow.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks down, he says, "Dad, you're going to be the death of me." And it ends up he beats the Key with the boxing glove arrow. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great.
That's classic. Yeah. That's classic. All right. So this actually moves us on to our next segment, which is top covers. And I will go first. What?
You actually missed one on criticisms.
Yeah, you missed criticism.
This is not my night.
So much he has no criticism.
I have no criticism for this character, and anybody does, they're being kicked off the show. I'm sorry, folks. I did miss it. Let's go on to the criticisms and why we think they suck. And actually, I have Dan listed as first for this one. So Dan, why don't you tell us why you don't like about him?
Well, the number one thing I have on there contradicts a badass moment that you and Gary had, and it was from Avengers 502 when he died. I absolutely hated that. I thought it was the stupidest thing when it happened. I was watching it because they're having the big fight, and he comes out and you see him like loaded for bear, where he normally has his one thing of arrows there, and he comes up and he's got 3 quivers full of arrows on his back, and he's got them on his side, and he's got them on his legs, and he's like, I'm gonna do this. And then before he can do anything, he gets hit with some fire on his quiver, and he just goes, not like this, and then grabs a rocket pack, throws himself up into the spaceship. I was like, that's the stupidest way to kill him. It's just bad. I'm sorry. I look at it as like this, Bendis was the worst thing to happen to the Avengers since Rob Liefeld.
Oh gosh.
It was just, to me, it was, I thought it was bad writing. So you're telling me he doesn't have enough time to grab the his quiver and throw it to the side. He doesn't have enough time to do that, but he's got enough time to grab this rocket pack and then fly all the way up, super high to where this, to where the spaceship is, and hit it and blow it up. So he's got time to do that, but not enough time to be like, it's just.
But you don't understand the self-sacrificing part.
But it's not the self-sacrificing part I didn't like. It's the fact that it was so, to me, it was so poorly written that it just didn't make, as I'm reading, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why? I was like, he's just giving up. That's not what Hawkeye does. Hawkeye doesn't just give up. So that's one thing that just
couldn't he just fly up there and like throw the quiver at the ship and then fly off?
All right, listen. The man needed a break.
Yeah.
Because he had the Wasp he was banging.
Yeah.
The Scarlet Witch he was banging. He had She-Hulk, I think he had been banging. So all these chicks were breathing down his throat. He'd had enough, and he needed a release. And that's how he got the hell out of having all them damn women chasing him.
Yeah,
the man needed a release.
And he
That's
died.
a badass moment by itself.
Yeah, but when he died, then what was the first thing he did when he came back? He found Scarlet Witch and he banged her.
Well, come on.
Like I said, I know you guys had it as a badass moment, but to me, I just read that and I was like, this is just like that entire disassembled storyline. I was like, this is poorly written, and this is very much written as this is what I want the outcome to be. So I'm gonna find a way to get to that, and it's not really gonna make a lot of sense in some areas. And then the other thing I don't really like is, and they haven't done it in a long time, but like where they will, when he was Goliath, and I get the reason why. It's like, because he had that kind of somewhat of an inferiority complex, which I'm glad that they had him outgrow, which it made sense for his character at the time. But at the same time, like, I don't really need Hawkeye to be someone that's got superpowers like that, especially powers that are so far and away from what his skill set is. Because once you have him become Goliath and grow big and get super strong, it takes everything that makes him unique and just gets rid of it. It's like, oh, now he's a strong guy. He's not going to walk around with like a bow and arrow the size of the Sears Trade Center, or the size of the Sears Tower and shoot giant arrows at anything, so but it just takes away everything about his character. Though it was funny in Operation Galactic Storm, where Hawkeye didn't get chosen to be one of the team members to go into space because they're like, you don't have the powers to do that, and they took US Agent instead. And then so Hawkeye goes, gets the Goliath stuff, comes back, and he goes, well, what about now? And he grows big, and they're like, okay, you're on the team, US Agent, you're off, because of the hatred that the two of them have for each other. That part notwithstanding, because that was pretty funny. It just, he's not a character that needs these big superpowers.
Okay. Good points. Jamie, why don't you go ahead and go next? Oh, are you done, Dan? Let me just make sure you're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, Jamie, go ahead.
Okay, so the biggest critique I have is when they water him down, like completely. It does no service to him. It does none whatsoever. Like I said earlier, at most of the series, most of the timeline he's been a part of, you've missed out on so many big aspects of him. Yeah, he's a master archer, skillsman, strength, everything. But you miss out on the fact, he's deaf? And then you take away that all he is a guy with a stick. Like, he's more than that. And a lot of people put him on that back burner, and that's the hardest thing to watch, is have Clint just be like, I'm here, but you need me to shoot at. Like,
Hi.
No, that's not why he's involved. You don't just insert him for that reason. He's gonna lead. He's gonna be forefront. He's gonna be the guy. Like, plain and simple. And it's just a sad part to see such a great character be sucky for that reason, rather than be great for who he is.
I agree with that. I agree. All right, Uncle Gary, why don't you go next?
Well, I'm going to say, I know that the where he died in 502, yeah, there's a ridiculousness to it, but the reason was because they wanted to show the sacrifice of, again, the person that had the least amount of power is able to take out this great big warship. But, it was all tied into the fact that it was a machination of the Scarlet Witch anyway. So it was, it was very short lived. When Hawkeye, I also liked when he was part of the Goliath. I liked when he was Goliath. He was having a crisis of identity because the team needed power and he was feeling inferior and he wanted to give himself that power. And then right after he turns to Goliath, he loses his brother Barney. Barney dies. So the character was going through a journey at that point. And then it also made for an incredibly dramatic return when at the end of the Kree-Skrull War, he vanishes. He's gone. He's not there. And they don't know where and he runs out of Pym particles and he has to fight the Skrulls just as, just as a normal sized Goliath. And he does it with a lot of valor and bravery. But when the Kree-Skrull War is over, all the Avengers are back home, but there's no Hawkeye. Or there's no Goliath. So there's a little bit of mystery there. And then it's solved in a pretty badass way that'll get into the criticism I have, Hawkeye. But there's in Avengers 98, they're fighting Ares, and he has taken control of the Scarlet Witch, and she's put a hex around Thor's hammer. And at that point, if Thor's without his hammer for 30 seconds, he turns back into Donald Blake. And the hammer is floating way above this crowd that Ares has gotten everybody all revved up and fighting one another with, his he's a god of war. So all this hate that he's got going on, he's influenced all the people. And Thor can't reach his hammer and he's being overwhelmed by the masses. And all of a sudden, through the air shoots this arrow and it just pierces through the air and it hits that hex bubble, bursts it, and then down goes the hammer back to Thor. And when they see that it was Hawkeye, or they see him, they said, Goliath, you're back. He goes, there ain't no Goliath. There's just a blonde-haired, blue-eyed archer named Hawkeye. And it's awesome. The scene was great. The only criticism is
that costume was terrible.
Hawkeye was wearing a skirt.
That was such a
wearing a skirt.
costume.
Yeah, it was a terrible costume. So that's my only criticism is Hawkeye in a skirt.
In a skirt.
So that went from like Avengers 98 to about 108, I think, is when he had that costume on. And had a headband, too. Had a headband, had a skirt, had a...
Like a bandana?
Like a bandana. Yeah.
It was like, he didn't really have a shirt either, right?
It was he had a shirt, but it was, it was kind of like a tunic.
It was just...
Yeah.
It was
and the bandana, it was less of a bandana and more of a headband.
Yeah, it was definitely a 70s headband.
Yep. Yep. So that's my only criticism. Hawkeye in a skirt.
Okay.
And it weren't no kilt either. It was a skirt. It was like a Roman skirt.
It was an awful costume.
All right. For my criticisms, actually, I do not have a lot. I understand the journey of what he was going through with Goliath, but I kind of agree with Dan. He is an archer. That's who he is. When he became Goliath, I felt like he lost a part of what I liked about him. So even though I understand the journey, I just didn't like that part because he is first and foremost an archer to me. The other thing is they make fun of what he tries to, or people make fun of his skill, or they make him to be like the comic relief, And I think this is an Avenging Spider-Man where he's fighting along Spider-Man. He's fighting some big masses, and he's like, I gotta do this shot. And Spider-Man's like, there's just no way. It's not logically gonna happen. And he's like, I gotta take the shot. He takes the shot, and of course, it doesn't even land near its target. And Spider-Man finally beats the guy at the end. And he's there. He sees the arrow, and he's like, I'm gonna hate myself. And he takes the arrow and he puts it on the guy. And Barton comes up. He's like, yes, I did it. That type of thing. I don't like that whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's that when they make fun of him for that or make fun of his skill like that, that annoys me to no end. I don't like that at all. And
there's a difference between being a smart ass like he is and being like a jokester like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Right, or a joke. I wouldn't say a jokester, but a joke. You know, treated like a joke. I don't like that. So the last thing I have, and I'm probably going to be nitpicky on this one, but because he's not superhuman, he's peak human. He's very above average, but he would be annihilated in any type of real fight if you think about it. He doesn't have a healing factor. He doesn't have any like super strength. He would be a bug stain in a heartbeat if it was actually involved in a real battle. But I don't digress. That was just too nitpicky for me.
I mean, that's pretty much any non-powered character, right? Batman, Green Arrow. I mean,
well, Batman has tech. Tony Stark has tech, but what does Clint Barton have? Trick arrows, and a skirt, according to Gary.
Well, again, it's like he said in Age of Ultron. He's like, we're on a floating island, we're battling robots, and I've got arrows. None of this
makes sense. Anyhow, all right. So let's go ahead and move on to our next segment, which is top covers. And I want Jamie to start us off on top covers.
All right. What you picked?
Yes. Show us what you got.
Nice.
So for my top covers, starting off with Avengers 189. To me, this is just the beefiest of cakes of Hawkeye.
Beefcake.
I like
Beefcake.
it, just a straight, just 100% grade A Uncle Gary right here if he was wearing the costume.
Yep. There you go.
He was probably lifting the
That's the Deathbird. That's the Deathbird issue too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love this. He's in the forefront, and it's great. My next one is
John Byrne. Yeah. John Byrne cover too.
Yeah. Hawkeye Freefall #1. I just think this is awesome because of the fact that it shows his acrobatic skills. It shows a different perspective of him, not just making a random shot, but probably doing a trick shot.
Right.
Trying to take down an enemy.
Yep.
And then lastly, I got West Coast Avengers #1. Him again in the forefront, leading this team, and just be finally saying like Avengers Assemble.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I thought that cover alone, I have it. It's great just to see. It's not Cap. It's not Iron Man. It's not Thor. It's just Hawkeye.
I love the corner box and the question marks on the other heads on who it's going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I like how they used to do that, and then inevitably you're looking at the characters in the background. You're picking the ones that you would want to be on the team. Like, oh, I'd like to see it. This one and this one and this one.
Right. That's pretty cool. All right, Uncle Gary, what are your top covers?
All right, we're gonna go. All right, so Avengers 109. I've always dug that cover. I just love that cover. That's by the great John Buscema with his brother Sal Buscema, and John Verputten was the anchor on it. But I just, and that's the attitude right there. That tears it. That it is an Avenger. Right now, Hawkeye's cutting out. So I just love the power in it. I love the I love the colors in it, and it just, that issue just stands out to me. So, and that's where he goes back to his original costume too, I believe.
Yeah.
So, the Thunderbolts 65, Patrick Zurcher, Alvey did that cover. I just love, I love he's in his crouch and he's just letting arrow fly. I just love the power in that pose.
Yep.
All the muscles strained. Boom. Love it.
I can see like
then the last one.
I'm sorry.
Say again?
You can see like just barely the last bit of the arrow right there in the corner.
Oh, absolutely. The shaft. Yep.
Yeah,
the
the
end
shaft
of
part,
the feathers.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's where Zurcher's got his signature, which is pretty cool too. Yep. And then the last one I think is probably my favorite. That's the great George Perez, inked by Terry Austin. And that's when Hawkeye comes back. This starts that 3-issue mini collector in the midst of the Korvac saga. 172, 3, and 4 dealt with the collector snatching Avengers, and just Hawkeye comes back to the team, and he's just on top of the smokestack. He's got that arrow pulled back, muscles pull tight, the bowstring taut, and ready to let that arrow fly.
Yep.
And then I always love, the floating heads. The floating heads are always a fun part of covers when they do them. So I just love that George Perez beauty.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. All right, Dan, let's see yours.
All right, well, let's start all the way in the end. I got Hawkeye issue 1, written and drawn by Mark Grunwald, who is more known for a writer than being an artist. But I love the cover that he did here, similar to the Avengers cover that Gary just showed.
Yep.
But yeah, he's got the arrow. He's getting ready to let it fly. And one thing I noticed when I was picking out covers for the top covers for Hawkeye here is there's a lot of great Hawkeye covers where it's just him and then like a mostly white background.
Yeah, very true.
I guess, just makes it stand out more. In the middle one, I've got Avengers 223, which I'm pretty sure I have this one as one of my top covers for Ant-Man when we did that episode too. It's just such an iconic cover with Ant-Man on the tip of the arrow and him getting ready to fire it.
Mm-hmm.
Just super cool. And then the one on
love it.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I love it. I love that cover. That was one of my tough cuts.
Yeah. And then the one on the end, Captain America 317. I remember when I got this issue, and it was from a back issue bin, and it was just the cover that really grabbed me. I was like, wait, Cap's got his bow, and Hawkeye's got the shield, and he's saying, well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into, Hawkeye. And it was just it was a fun story. It was a good team up between the two of them. And, like Gary alluded to earlier in the episode, there was a lot of animosity that Hawkeye had to Captain America when he first joined the Avengers, but he ended up growing to have a lot of respect for him and, looking at him as a mentor and as a friend. So, it was, it's just a fun cover to see. And it was a really fun issue to read too.
All right. And they both shop at the same boot store too. If you see that.
Yes, they do. Pirates are us.
Pirates are us. Arg for code. Arg's the code for 10% off. All right. And look at that. We've got some.
Look at that.
Repeating covers here.
Another white background.
Oh, white backgrounds again. Let me kick off the Alex Ross one right there. That's Avengers 42, I believe.
That's spectacular.
That's just amazing. Like I've said before, him and one other guy are on my Mount Rushmore for art, and you'll see that guy's art just over there to the right, as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love the way he's drawn here, and like you're like looking down almost like the barrel of a gun type situation with him, and that's perfect. Of course, we got the Avengers 223. Someone's gonna get it. It's an iconic cover, and I love that cover. Last but not least, the other man that's on the Mount Rushmore for my artwork is George Perez, and it's I just love everything about this cover. The way he's got pulling back, ready to let fly. You got the floating heads. You got Beast that's drawn like Beast. Get our meeting there, and of course the Cyclops boots that Jamie loves so much. He does. He's shaking his head right now. Yes, he's probably ordering this cover right now and some Cyclops boots. Remember, Jamie, use the word Hawkeye. I was gonna say Hawkeye and get 10% off on your order.
Use the word disappointment and get your money back.
Sal, I'm with you. Ross and Perez are on my Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, 100%. All right, so this takes us through top covers.
Hey, what can you see this arrow that I have here?
Yes.
Yeah.
See what's on it?
Hold it to more side. Hold it more to the side. There you go. Now move it over. I can't really tell.
Oh, that's awesome.
Looks like
it's Ant-Man that's on it.
Is it Ant-Man?
Ant-Man.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's Ant-Man on that arrow
Nice.
that he's sending off.
Nice.
So that figure comes with the Ant-Man arrow.
Yeah.
So there we go.
That's cool. All right. So we all look at these great top covers, but where can we find these covers? And I think Jamie knows of a place that we can find top covers like these and others.
Yes.
Oh, nice segue.
Yes, definitely. You guys can go check out our newest paid sponsor, Nirvana Comics, guys. go check them out. It is nirvanacomicsknoxville.com. They have a whole backlog on their website. And if you are in the Knoxville area, you can find them here.
Yes,
But
definitely.
the good thing about them is that they supplied us with a comic for a giveaway. And
Nice.
ladies,
There you go.
we are going to show you what comic that is right now. And it is Duke #1. And it is, if I remember correctly, number 95 out of 200. You guys
Nice.
can jump
They're
into
short
this.
variants.
Yeah, you guys can jump into the sweepstakes simply by doing like we did with 1,000 subscriber giveaway, and that's saying I'm in the comments, but showing us you're a subscriber and also following Nirvana Comics on any of their socials. Either you like it, follow, subscribe, whatever it may be, as long as you're following them, let us know and you will be entered in. Because remember, in Nirvana Comics, there is a comic out there for everyone.
Nice.
Absolutely. And I actually follow their Facebook page, and they post regularly about their stuff and their books, which is great. So
Yes.
definitely
They got their own inventory, and they also got an eBay store too, as well. So you can check out both.
Yes.
Excellent.
Very good. All right, so let's go ahead now and jump into essential readings. These are 3 of the best readings we think we want people to read, especially if you don't know the character, but if you've been living under a rock, you should know this character, but you should check out these readings. And Uncle Gary, why don't you kick us off with that?
All right. Let's see my list. All right. So
look
the
at that
Hawkeye
white
epic-
background.
I know. I was waiting to say it. I was waiting. I was like, we got a white background, guys. Don't worry.
So the Hawkeye Epic Collection are these great, these volumes that I think are great values. And so the Hawkeye Volume 1, this has got a lot of stories in here for Hawkeye. And if you want to really get into the character, I think this is where you start, because this is going to have it's going to have some Tales of Suspense 57. So where he first becomes Hawkeye. You're going to have 60 where his second appearance, and 64 another early appearance. You're going to get Avengers 16 where he joins the Avengers. You're going to get a couple other Avengers issues, 189, which was the Great Deathbird issue, and 223, the issue where he's shooting Ant-Man on the arrow. You're going to get some Marvel team-ups in there, a few of those that he was with Spider-Man. You're going to get Marvel Fanfare, a couple of those issues, and you're also going to get a Marvel Super Action issue and a short story that was in Marvel Tales 100. And then you're also going to get the first Hawkeye miniseries in 1983, the 4 issues of that. So you're going to get a whole lot of Hawkeye content in here. And the 63, 64, and 65 of Avengers, that's where it deals with him becoming Goliath and the death of his brother. So you get a lot of good background and backstory into what makes the character so great. So I think that's a great read. This was a $40 trade paperback, and I think it's worth every penny of it.
Yeah, that's worth it.
So
you'd pay a lot
Avengers
more
170
collecting those individual issues.
Oh, absolutely. Look, Avengers 50, Tales of Suspense 57 alone is going to cost you in the hundies, baby, to get that one.
Yep.
So Avengers 172 to 174, Volume 1. That's been reprinted many times in many of the Marvel Epic lines or the Masterworks. But if you just want to buy the individual issues, that collects that collector saga that we talked about, where he's plucking Avengers and putting them in his spaceship in his collection. And we've talked about that, how he was the last one left and he kicks the collector's ass. And that's 172 was that great Perez cover where he's on the smokestack. So those are great issues to collect. If you just want to buy 3 Avengers issues, those are affordable if you want to buy them like that, but you can also buy them in a collected issue. And then the last is West Coast Avengers 1 through 4. And that's the original miniseries that established the team. And that's where Hawkeye comes into his own, and he realizes that he's been an Avenger long enough and he can lead his own team. And that's his dream. And that's what he wants to do. And that deals with the formation of that team. So those are my recommended readings, and you can't go wrong with any of those.
All right. Well, we do have
Nice.
a comment real fast, Uncle Gary.
Yeah.
From TJ, great stream, guys. Learned a few things about Hawkeye, but still prefer Green Arrow. That is coming from a Marvel guy. TJ, thanks for jumping
All
in.
right. Thanks, TJ.
TJ, I do too. I'm a DC guy. I love Green Arrow, but I do love Hawkeye a lot. So, but yeah, Green Arrow's more my guy.
And thanks for tuning in, TJ. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and show us your recommended readings?
Of course. So obviously, I have Civil War 2, number 3. Like I was talking about earlier with Badass Moments, this is where Hawkeye takes out Bruce Banner before he transforms into the Hulk. And the reason for this is it really goes to show the trust that any of the Avengers have for Hawkeye. He literally told him verbatim what to do if he ever gets to that point again, and told Hawkeye, as Hawkeye's telling somebody else why he did what he did, because they're on a hunt for Hawkeye for the murder of Bruce Banner.
Right.
And he tells them, Bruce came to me a long time ago about this, basically telling me how to take him out, when to take him out. I've been following him, tracking him for a very long time in the shadows. He even went on to say that Bruce told him, if there's ever a moment that I even know you're there, the big guy's going to stop you.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no stopping him from stopping you. So you have to do it when I least expect it. And he did. Next up, I got Hawkeye Freefall. This is, to me, an underrated series, which many people should check out. Basically, from the beginning, so impersonating Hawkeye, there's I believe a burglary and a death, and they're blaming it on Hawkeye, but Hawkeye was actually at a banquet hall at the time, and it's just a fiasco from there. I think it was a great read all the way through. The art was fantastic in it. Don't know why it fell short as it did. Maybe the timing when it came out, but I do love that series. And lastly, I have Old Man Hawkeye.
Good stuff.
I do
good.
love the symbiote family in there and how they're going up against them. I think that was a great twist on that. Him being blind and still being able to shoot better than anybody else is just fantastic to, visually see and try to even comprehend how he's doing it.
Awesome.
So
That's
those would be my
good stuff right there. Those are good stuff.
The good reads.
All right, Jamie, throw up my picks. I'm going to go next.
Okay.
There we go. All right, I picked Secret Avengers Volume 2, 1 through 14. Cap basically gives him this team, Secret Avengers, and the leadership dynamic is excellent. And I'm not going to really go into it too much there, but that really shows off his leadership skills and echo a lot of the stuff that we love about the leadership portion of Hawkeye. Next, I got Hawkeye Volume 4, number 3. This is titled The Book I Never Knew I Always Wanted to Read. And Hawkeye narrates this issue. He narrates this issue, and he's explaining about exactly 9 stupid ideas that he had that day. And each of them is shown in order. And it includes how he hooked up with this girl, this mysterious redhead, after offering to buy her a classic muscle car. It's a great story. You have to read it. It's just one of those things where you have to read. You can't really explain it too well. Last I have is from his original series from 1983, Hawkeyes 1 through 4. I like this story because it's very good for the characters. For the people that are just starting out knowing about this character, and it's focusing on his time working with Mockingbird, who eventually marries. It also contains, how he lost part of his hearing. So, all in all, I think this was a good overall series, and I really recommend this one first if you've never really read the character or don't know much about him. I think that's the first one you should start with.
Yeah, and we did do a review on that too, so if you guys want to go check that out, it'd be under the Codex reviews.
Oh yeah, definitely
Very
do
nice.
that. Definitely do that. All right, Dan, let's see your readings.
Well, there were some that I was really struggling that I wanted to put on here, but I ended up not putting them on because I knew that it would be picked. So like Sal had, the 4-issue miniseries. That's one I'll agree that you absolutely have to read. There's so much that happens to him that he gets a new costume. He meets Mockingbird and then marries her at the end. That's where he loses his hearing. Like it's such a defining series for that character, and like Gary had too with the first West Coast Avengers miniseries. That was another great. That's the first time that he really came into his own as the leader of a team. Where Vision picked him, said, "We're going to make a West Coast team. You're going to be the leader." So I agree. Those are absolute musts. But I wanted to pick some that that were a little different than that too. So I put Solo Avengers 1 through 20. It was a book that used to come out where it would be the first story in each issue would focus on Hawkeye, and then there'd be a short backup story that would focus on a different Avenger every issue. And it was one that ran for 20 issues where it was essentially a Hawkeye book that had backup stories with other characters, and it dealt with a lot of stuff with his origin, his relationship with Mockingbird, and then them kind of being on the outs, and then Black Widow coming in the picture. And it was just a really fun book. And the bonus is that you get some good backup solo stories for other Avengers like Mockingbird or Wonder Man or some other characters too, like Hank Pym. So it was a lot of fun. After issue 20, it became Avengers Spotlight, and Hawkeye was still in the book occasionally, but he wasn't in it every issue like when it was solo Avengers. And like Gary had recommended the big like Hawkeye omnibus. That was volume 1. I'm pretty sure that volume 2 of that is the first 20 issues of solo Avengers, and then the first issue, issue 21, when it was Avengers Spotlight. So
yeah, I think so too. I think you're right on that, Dan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a good one to get. But if you want to get the individual issues of this, you could probably find a lot of them in dollar bins. They're good reads, but they're not real expensive.
Not hard to find either, right?
No, not really. And the first issue is cool too because it has a backup story penciled by Jim Lee featuring Mockingbird.
Nice. I bet he draws nice feet.
Yeah.
The second one I got is Hawkeye Volume 4. I just went ahead. Sal had issue 3 on his list. I just went ahead and put the whole
volume.
It's not super long. It's only I think it was 22 issues and an annual. But
yeah.
It's just such a fantastic read. It's his solo book, but it also is really a kind of team up book a lot too with him and Kate Bishop. And if you like the Hawkeye miniseries that they did for Disney Plus, then this is the book that you want to read because a lot of what they did in that series they took from that Volume 4 Hawkeye series. They took the tone, the costume that he has in it, the whole thing with like the tracksuit mafia and stuff all came from there. The pizza dog thing came from there. And the artwork that David Aja did in it, I mean, not only did like the look of the series of the Hawkeye TV show come from that, but like the artwork that they had on the opening and closing credits and stuff, they just took it straight from what David Aja did. So it's a really fun read. And like I said, if you like the TV show, this is where they got a lot of it from. And then I thought I would be the only man to pick it, but Jamie picked it too. Old Man Hawkeye.
Yeah,
it was just a fantastic series. I'd say get it's the collected volume. It's Old Man Hawkeye, the complete collection. It's the 12-issue Old Man Hawkeye miniseries, and then the follow-up issue, Wastelanders. And this series is the Old Man Hawkeye character that was in the Old Man Logan, but this takes place before that. So it shows him when, because by the time it was Old Man Logan, he was completely blind. So this
right.
when he is, after, it's years after the downfall of all the heroes, and Hawkeye realizes that he's losing his sight, and he decides to set out through these wastelands, and excuse me, and his goal is that, before he loses his sight, that he's going to go out and he's going to get his revenge on these villains for for killing all the other heroes and killing his friends. And he runs into the Venom gang, and he runs into various other heroes that are still around, like Kate Bishop. She's still around, and you see what their relationship is like now. But one of the primary things of it is it shows a flashback of some of the heroes, how they got killed, and it shows that the Thunderbolts betrayed the heroes, sided with the villains, and ambushed the heroes and killed them. So the series starts off with Hawkeye deciding to go out, and he's going to hunt down each one of them and get revenge for betraying him and killing all the other Avengers. And then the way it ends with some of the characters that he meets and how it leads into Old Man Logan is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. All right. That wraps up that segment. Now on to Best Writer and Best Artist for Hawkeye. So, Jamie, why don't you kick us off? What you got for that?
Definitely, we'll do that. So for a writer, I have Matt Fraction. I think that everything that's led into what people see as Hawkeye now, from either the MCU or current, has been due to Matt Fraction's run.
Okay. I didn't hear you the first time. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was saying it was Matt Fraction for me. Like, everything that Hawkeye's been has been pertained in that. And as for my artist, I got to go with Otto Schmidt from Freefall. He took everything we loved before and new and put it together. And I feel like it just worked so well.
Nice. Uncle Gary, what do you got for Best Artist and Writer?
Okay, for best artist, I'm going to go with the guy that signed this book. I'm going to go with Bob Hall.
Oh,
so I just think it's a classic look for Hawkeye.
Scribbles.
He got scribbles on there.
It's got scribbles.
So, I just think it was a classic look for him, and he's been drawn by some great guys, by Perez, by Byrne, but it's kind of all over so many people have drawn him, but I think that first West Coast Avengers miniseries was just so important in establishing Hawkeye, and I just thought it was a classic look, and I wanted to give Bob Hall some love. As far as the writer, same thing, man. A lot of these Hawkeye stories that I really like have been written by so many different people, but I'm going to give the nod to a fellow that also did some drawing of the character too, and that's Mark Grunwald. So, with his writing plus the fact that he was an artist on the character too, that's going to give him the extra edge there, and I'm going to pick him as my writer.
Nice. All right, Dan, how about you?
Mark Grunwald is a great choice. I was considering naming him. Matt Fraction is probably the one that I'll go with, but since Jamie, he'd probably be my number one, but since Jamie already threw him out there, then I'll go with Mark Waid, because I really like the way he wrote him when he took over Avengers. And like you said, there's been some great writers, DeFalco and some of the Avengers writers that had him back then. But there's one scene in when they relaunched Avengers, and it's when they're after they had the big fight that that brought them all back together for the first few issues, and they're trying to decide who the team's going to be, and they're picking characters, and Hawkeye gets mad that he's not like one of the automatics that's first picked, and he's in true Hawkeye fashion storms out of the mansion, goes off to do his own thing, runs into Justice and Firestar from the New Warriors, kind of helps, kind of has a little team up with them as they're, I don't even remember what villain they were fighting. And he's like, you know what? You guys are going to be in the Avengers. And comes back, and he like storms back in the mansion and demands, he's like, they're going to be on here. And they said like, all right, well, there's only one spot left. And, where's going to be you? Like, we were going to pick you. And he's like, what? And then like just the way Mark Waid wrote him with that, and they're like, and you see him lean into Captain America. He's like, well, come on, like they're a couple kids, like they can, the two of them could take up one spot. They're young, and then they end up deciding to keep Justice and Firestar on as like probationary Avengers and get trained. But just the way that he wrote him with some of the stuff like that is is just perfect Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm. That's some good stuff.
But like I said, but like Jamie said, like everything that we know of Hawkeye, like from the movies and stuff, that all came from Matt Fraction. And then for artists, like you said, there's been a lot of great ones, but I got to go with Perez. Just not just that Avengers series, but the older Avengers issues he drew him on, the JLA Avengers book, like he just perfect when it comes to drawing him. Got some of those epic poses too. So yeah, that's what I gotta pick. What about you, Sal?
All right, so for artists, I actually had a really tough time. Perez is right up there, but I didn't want to choose Perez because I've chosen for so many other things.
Perez could be the answer to almost every character.
Perez could be the answer for every character, right?
Because he's drawn all of them.
Perez is my answer for everything. But I like the art from Greg LaRocque. I love Sal Buscema, and I think I'm going to go with that Sal Buscema. David Benzel also was really good, but I'm going to go with Sal Buscema as my artist. For writer, I went with David Michelini. I liked his stuff, and it was solid for me. So, I went with that. Okay, so that does it. I think this wraps up this episode. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Like, what's the best costume he had?
The one where he wears a skirt. I thought that was on the line, and it was just so edgy, and no one thought of it before.
Well, the reason it doesn't work is Hawkeye's a character is so brash and has such big balls. The skirt doesn't contain that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go with that one where it's the kind of the old classic costume, but he's got the full. I always thought the full sleeve for his left arm looked pretty. Just on the left arm looked pretty cool.
It's for the string.
Yeah, well, because especially too, I was gonna say when you see real archers, they have a guard that they wear on the inside that just covers the inside of their arm to protect it from the string.
Oh, it messes us up when you don't wear it. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so so design wise, it looked cool on the costume, but it also made absolute perfect sense too when you think about, that string's gonna be hitting that constantly. So that would be the one that I would pick for the best.
I have to agree. That's the one I like the best too.
Me too.
All right. Very good. All right. So that does it. Then let's go ahead and wrap this up. Put it to bed. Stick it in the vault. Put it on the site, and let people enjoy this down the road. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am Sal, the Slab Guy, your host. As always, thank you. You can always find me at Sal's Comic Corner and on Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. Dan, real quick, where can they find you?
You find me on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. So go check it out. Give me a follow. And when you're done doing that, go check out this guy and all that he has going on.
Yes.
All right. Comic Logic, proud owner of Comic Logic, Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. Please come in and see me every Wednesday, getting my new books. We are also, getting the 4-color ink, getting them in the veins, making us strong. We also do a Facebook Live show first 3 Thursdays out of every month. So we had a preview show tonight, and next 2 Thursdays, you grumpy old nerds will appear, and we'll talk comics, sports, pop culture, anything else us three jokers like to talk about. And we also, all of us are a part of the Archduke Kevy's site that he started and brought us all together, Comic Character of the Day. I post cover of the day under the name Opie Taylor. Dan posts a random panel of the day and a question of the day. Sal's always posting on there and commenting. And Jamie is always making sure that we are following the right procedures there and making sure that you are entertained. And the reason you are entertained is because that guy up there, the creator, the visionary, the man that built this station brick by brick by brick, J-Dub.
Yeah, and you guys can find us everywhere at the Kodak Station and also at our amazing new website, thanks to Sal, thekodakstation.com. Guys, get some merch, meet the team, let us know what you like, don't like, and find all of our socials so you don't miss out on any of the content that we're providing for you because it is a lot. Whew. So make sure to go check that out. Again, thank you for our sponsors today, W Energy and Nirvana Comics. Make sure to go check them out as well. And we will see all of you in the next one.
You guys have a nice